75. That's 425-7575.
Hey there, it's Tori with your hometown station. Weather, beautiful day today. Sunny skies, highs in the low 90s. For anything and everything Santa Clarita Valley related, go to hometownstation.com or check us out on Facebook at KHTS Radio.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
The following is sponsored programming and does not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of KHTS or its ownership.
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Good morning and welcome to the Senior Hour, which is sponsored by Comfort Keepers in Home Care, Advanced Audiology, and Santa Clarita Hearing Center. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host,
Dr. Jane Dorio.
On your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220, KHTS. This is a show for, about, and by seniors, giving information to enhance one's quality of life. And speaking of quality of life, none other than the famous Dr. Thomas Palucki, our local chiropractor, is here today. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
It's good to actually see you in the studio.
I know.
I was feeling a little lonely the last couple of shows, coming in here by myself, sitting with a mask. It feels like driving around with a mask on, like, yeah, I'm contributing. I don't get it. I see these people driving around in their cars by themselves with the masks on.
I know.
mean, that's a little too cautious, I believe. I mean, there's a problem out there, but I think it's gotten to a couple of people.
More than a couple.
Yeah, so, we do what we can. I don't have a problem with wearing a mask. I don't have a problem with social distancing, washing my hands. I mean, a lot of this is just what you should have been doing all along, except for the mask stuff. But here's what, even though we're pretty much open, like we went out this weekend and almost everything was available. The lines are crazy. It's you have to be the first one there and wait in line in order to do just about anything, and that's problematic. But instead of focusing on what every channel, all the time, all day, 24/7, around the clock coverage of this particular crisis, let's focus on what this show is about, and that's enhancing your quality of life. And I don't think COVID does that in any way whatsoever. So let's try to rein it into focusing on quality of life, because that's what I specialize in. Dr. Dorio is a classically trained conventional medical doctor, and that is his strength. He's a great medical doctor, especially for this audience. That being said, my job is to do what he cannot have the time for, as far as taking care of the diet, the exercise, the physical aspect of the medicine. I know his partner, Dr. Terenzino, does some of that stuff. But again, classically trained medical doctors, they have to deal with the medication and the management of some very serious health conditions, especially in this population. My goal is not so much to focus on the management of the diseases, but to enhance quality of life, enhance the things that build health, including diet, exercise, hydration. We can talk about hydration. It's getting hot out there. There's some ways to enhance hydration. I know Dr. Dorio is a big fan of the Gatorade.
That's right.
Not me.
Yeah, no, not me. Not me either. But there's an easy answer for it. Water itself.
There you go.
Yeah, water itself is pretty darn good at hydrating.
Yes.
But there's a reason that Gatorade exists. They found that in the heat, when people were sweating profusely, water alone wasn't enough. And there's a reason for that, and that is that a lot of people may have heard of reverse osmosis. It might be under their sink right now. It's a water purification system. Mm-hmm. Or unfortunately, some people in the audience may have to be on dialysis. It's a similar thing. and that is that a concentration of any material will go across a barrier, a permeable barrier, like any kind of a membrane, to a lesser concentration. And I know I've already lost a couple of people like that, but basically something more solid, there's more things dissolved, like metabolic wastes, will naturally flow towards the water, right? Okay, so bear with me so much. So when you put really high quality filtered water through the body, you pull out some wastes, which is good, and that's taken care of through the liver and kidneys. But you also pull out some of the important salts in every cell. Salts are kind of a catalyst. They make things happen. They make everything work a little bit better. So when you put really filtered water through the body, you're pulling out some of those salts from the cells, and it actually, the water in the cell follows that salt. So all of a sudden, you think you're hydrating, but all of a sudden you're becoming dehydrated the more pure water you drink. And this was put to the test many, many years ago. I'm sure Dr. Dorio has more details about this than I do because he was involved in this study. But this was put to the test down in Florida, where there's ridiculous humidity. And these kids, was it high school or college, Dr. Dorio?
College.
College football were dropping out like flies because no matter how much water they drank, they couldn't stay hydrated. So some really smart people put a little bit of sugar and a little bit of salt in the water, and all of a sudden they could get through their practices, they could get through their games, they could get through their competitions without getting knocked out by the heat.
So what you're saying is the body does need salt.
The body needs salt and the body needs sugar. I know sugar has been the enemy for so long for so many people, and the way that it is in our culture and in our diet, yes, it is a problem because it's way too much. Mm-hmm. But a little bit of salt and a little bit of sugar in your water makes water work so much better in your body because it's forcing the water into the cells instead of pulling it out of the cells.
All right.
Okay.
So it is essential for the body to have water and the cells to have water. Just like when you go out and water your plants, you're essentially hydrating your plants. And by doing that, they grow. And they will, for whatever the DNA is in it, if you're growing oranges or apples or plums or, lettuce or whatever it is, the watering it allows it to hydrate and function the way it's supposed to function. The same thing applies to the body. Once you get hydrated, you can flourish. And in certain circumstances, when you've been exercising and you become dehydrated, putting the water back in fairly quickly, like a commercial show, will get you hydrated and get you back to normal a lot quicker.
Well, you mean drinking water makes you grow, up or out, or both?
No.
I don't want either one.
For the plant, it's essential because plants aren't exercising.
That's true.
But they are growing. So, but the same principle lines up. But with human beings, since we're moving around all the time, we're losing water. And in certain environments, like in Florida, and sometimes here in Santa Clarita, you have a loss of that water, that ability to get, like Dr. Pilecki says, certain nutrients into the cells and allow it to continue and function.
Well, I don't like salt.
Now that's good. Some people, a much larger percentage of the population than initially suspected, has a problem with their kidneys processing salt. It varies from study to study, but a lot of people especially people who are being managed for high blood pressure, need to really watch their salt. I'm not saying that you should pour salt on every meal or anything like that. What I am saying is that water becomes much more effective with a little bit of salt. And I have a recipe online, but it basically works out to, for every liter, there's, I believe it's a gram of, so I'll talk in common terms. For a quart of water, you're going to put a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of sugar. I'm pretty sure that's the, yeah, so that bottle, you would put a teaspoon of, no, that can't be right. It's a 1/4 teaspoon.
This is 24 ounces.
Yeah, so a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and sugar. You shouldn't be able to taste it. Then that's the problem I have with Gatorade. I believe that the formula is way too salty and way too sugary. And
It's
there's
too sugary
yeah,
for
and
me.
there's other stuff in there as well. So that's going to create a problem, especially for people who are not moving around a whole lot. That's going to create an additional burden on their pancreas, on their liver, and on their kidneys. So maybe if you are a big fan of Gatorade, maybe you should cut it in half with high quality water.
Can you do
And they
that,
do
Dr.
have,
Dorio?
They do have Gatorade 2, which is 1/2 the
Yeah.
amount of sugar and salt in it. And they used to have a product called Endurance, Gatorade Endurance, and that was a lot of that may have come because of me, because I told them that for me personally, there wasn't enough salt when I was running marathons. I had trouble during the run and even after getting back to normal. But I did augment the amount of salt on my own, and that helped change things. But in doing that, I realized, I need more. And, hate to say it, I or others as well, if you look up on the internet, there you'll see that there used to be a product by Gatorade called Endurance, and that had more of salt in it, and not enough people bought it, so they yanked it off the shelves eventually after about a year. But I'll tell you, during that time, when I was, at my prime running, which was not last year, my recovery time for marathons was probably less than 24 hours, which is pretty quick. For half marathons, it was probably around 4 hours to 8 hours, somewhere in there. And recovery time for the shorter races like 10 and 5Ks were not a problem. But the longer races, you can lose like 4, 5, 6 pounds in some of these races, and I was doing that, and even losing a lot of salt at the same time. So they complied, tried it out, didn't work, wasn't a business deal, so they cut it out. But it all depends on the individual. I'm different from others. I lose more salt, I think, but you don't know. So you kind of have to figure it out yourself. But for some people, they can't tolerate the salt, Barbara. So, it's just too much, and some people think it's too sugary. And, of course, Dr. Pilecki is correct. There are ingredients in Gatorade which are sometimes repulsive to me, especially the food coloring, which I've asked them to take out, and they have refused. So, this is just the nature of business, and, plus us trying to utilize for ourselves and sometimes for our seniors the best way to handle life, especially in a very warm or hot environment like Santa Clarita.
Well, do you know how much Gatorade you drink a day, Gene?
Probably when I'm running and exercising, probably I usually drink a 32-ounce container. I drink from a 32-ounce container, and I'll probably drink 1.5 of those. So that comes out to 48 ounces or so of
64.
Gatorade. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 32 plus 16. So
okay.
So 1.5 of those. I don't think unless I'm trying to recover from a race, which I don't do much of anymore. I will usually have 1.5 of the 32 ounces. So you can tell, in my garage, if you saw my garage, I have cases of Gatorade.
Well, I hope you keep it cool.
Oh yeah, I mean they typically and usually don't go bad, but for whatever people have to kind of find, like Dr. Pilecki says, you can't fit everybody in the same shoe,
No.
So here you have to realize that everybody's got to figure out what their salt tolerance is and their sugar tolerance is. If you're a diabetic, you have to be very careful with your like the sugar and hypertensive with the salt. So correct. I mean, nothing applies. There's nothing that applies to all of us at the same time. It's individualized. And for me, I kind of figured out where my limits are and my health, and I follow blood pressure and everything else. So I know kind of where I stand, and everybody hopefully will be able to do that also. Some people do, and some people don't.
Yeah. Well,
but
Dr. Dorio, we have to take a break. And we'll be back in a few minutes. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220, KHTS.
Experience luxury senior living at Oakmont of Valencia, Oakmont's brand new community in Santa Clarita. At Oakmont of Valencia, residents will enjoy 5-star amenities, including state-of-the-art movie theaters, spacious custom-built apartment homes, and sweeping views of the valley, all close to shopping, restaurants, and medical centers. Enjoy resort-style living, professional concierge services, a luxurious salon and day spa, and world-class dining. At Oakmont of Valencia, you'll embrace retirement in style. For details, visit oakmontofvalencia.com.
The Santa Clarita Safer at Home restrictions are starting to loosen, and Santa Clarita Lanes is ready to go. Santa Clarita Lanes is committed to adhering to safety guidelines with 6 feet social distancing, plus extra cleaning and sanitizing throughout the day. Masks and temperature checks are required to enter. Santa Clarita Lanes is the perfect place to bring the kids who are getting just a bit restless. Feel confident that your local bowling alley is safe and clean. Santa Clarita Lanes, the perfect place for you and your family to have fun during these trying times. At Soledad near Center Point Parkway.
And now a cooking tip from Keith Mowry from Bob's Country Meats. Everyone loves chicken. It's easy to cook in a variety of ways, especially on the barbecue.
Marinate it overnight in your favorite marinade. Brown it up nice on the barbecue, and then put it on the other side in direct heat. Close your lid. Take another 25-30 minutes, and they're good.
Chicken, tri-tip, pork chops, turkey, steaks, even exotic game like buffalo and ostrich. For the tastiest chicken in town, visit Bob's Country Meats on Soledad in Canyon Country.
Finding the right auto body shop can feel like a never-ending search. Caesar, owner of Body Shop 661, has a passion for your car and his business.
We really pride ourselves in quality craftsmanship with no unnecessary delays.
More than just repairs. Body Shop 661, trusted, reliable, respected for over 16 years in the Santa Clarita Valley. Visit bodyshop661.com or give them a call, 661-251-2252.
We all know sometimes people lose their way. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, the Way Out Recovery SCV may have the answers you've been waiting for. The Way Out is the premier intensive outpatient treatment center serving Santa Clarita. Asking for help is the first step. Call The Way Out today, 661-296-4444. That's 296-4444 for a private free assessment. The Way Out is an accredited, affordable outpatient program that accepts most insurance. Call us at 661-296-4444 or check us out online at thewayoutrrecoveryscv.com. Quit battling with yourself. Ask The Way Out for help today.
Loss of hearing can affect the quality of life. Santa Clarita Hearing Center can help. They specialize in both preventative hearing loss and corrective measures, including diagnostic tests, new technology hearing aids, cochlear implants, hearing protection, and tinnitus treatment. They can adjust your current hearing aids or fit you for new ones. Santa Clarita Hearing Center also offers sleep molds, swim molds, and musician monitors. Book an appointment today. Log on to SantaClaritaHearingCenter.com, located on McBean Parkway next to the hospital. That's SantaClaritaHearingCenter.com.
Finding the right lawyer can be a challenge, but in Santa Clarita, there's no need to search when there's Hacker Law Group, Santa Clarita's premier litigation firm. Jeffrey Hacker has represented celebrities, financial institutions, accident victims, real estate developers, realtors, contractors, businesses, nonprofit organizations, and other individuals and companies with their legal challenges. Mr. Hacker is one of Santa Clarita's leaders, consistently listed as one of our most influential. When everything is on the line and you need legal counseling, visit hackerlawgroup.com.
Your hometown station.
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, AM 1220, 98.1 FM, KHTS. And we're speaking with the one and only Dr. Thomas Palucki, a local chiropractor. But you're more than a chiropractor.
Yes.
You're a nutritionist.
Well, I am medical director for functional diagnostic nutrition, so I have over 300 functional medicine practitioners under my guidance.
Well, functional medical diagnostic?
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
Whoa.
Functional diagnostic nutrition. So nutritionist is actually a degree. So I do not claim to be a nutritionist. Instead, I spent an obscene amount of time going through a certification process for functional medicine, which is separate from a dietitian or a nutritionist. If I wanted to, I could apply the hours that I spent with that into that program, but they are two separate and distinct programs. So that's way too much information. The bottom line is we provide an approach towards nutrition that is based in a functional approach instead of a treating a specific symptom or disease approach.
Right. In other words, treating the whole body.
Yeah, so not even treating the whole body. So here's the interesting thing. I had a patient, and I hope you'll allow me just this little sidebar. I had a patient the other day, came in, was scared to death. You could see it. He was terrified. He'd already been to 3 eye doctors, and I never promote any kind of eye treatment in my office whatsoever. But he came to me after being to 3 eye doctors. He said, my right eye is like 60% blind right now, and nobody can tell me what it is. They can tell me what it's not. They've done MRIs. They've done all these evaluations, and they can tell me that it's not cancer, it's not a tumor, it's not glaucoma, it's not this or that or the other. But they can't tell me why I'm going blind in one eye. And when I ask them, what can I do about it, their answer is, well, we can give you these medications, but it's really just a wait and see. And he was like, well, is this going to get better? And 2 out of 3 of them said, probably not.
Oh.
But we have to wait until we know what this is to move anywhere, go in any direction with this. That just terrified him. Like he could feel his vision slipping away from him, and his conventional doctors couldn't give him an answer of why that was happening, and just said, well, we don't know what this is, and we don't think it's going to get better, but we can't treat other than here are these medications based on just your symptoms, not based on, trying to get it better, because they didn't know. So he comes in because his wife has been a patient for years, and she said, well, you got nothing to lose, go to Palucki. And so they come in. I said, listen, I don't know. I'm not an eye doctor. I don't know what's wrong with your eye, but I do know what it takes for an eye to work right. I do know what it takes to clean up your bloodstream. I do know what it takes to give the nutrition necessary, because not every kind of nutrition can get to the eye, and the eye is very specific on what kinds of nutrition it needs. So I do know that. I know that real well. Let's try that instead. Instead of having to pin down the specific disease process that was going on, where 2 specialists couldn't figure it out, I was like, okay, I'm not going to do a better job at that than they would, but I do know what it takes to make eyes work. Let's try that instead. And within a week, he was 50% better.
Wow, that's
And
incredible.
When I asked him,
That's
you know, so what is this like? He was like, I was an emotional train wreck. I felt like I didn't want to live anymore. My eyesight is everything to me, and I felt like it was slipping away out of my control, and nobody could help.
It's like closing an eye and trying to maneuver with one eye open.
Yeah.
That would be horrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrible.
So that's the basic fundamental difference between a conventionally trained doctor and a functionally trained doctor. We don't necessarily spend all of our energy on trying to figure out what disease we're battling. We spend all of our time on trying to get people healthy, which is, it sounds like, well, that's silly. All doctors do that. Well, I don't know. If all you're doing is treating a disease, you're not necessarily supporting the overall health of the individual. In fact, it's a contradiction.
That's right. But your way is a healthier way.
Well, I believe it is an approach towards health, and conventional medicine is more of a treatment of a specific condition.
That's right.
And there's I don't believe one is better. No. I just believe they are different, and I believe that people get the best when conventional doctors and functional doctors work hand in hand with each other.
Right.
And there isn't any kind of controversy, there isn't any kind of ego or consensus or narrative. There is, what can we do to get this person as good as possible? And it's a beautiful handoff. If there is a disease process that actually needs specific treatment, I'm not the person for that. However, once that disease is arrested, that's kind of where the conventional doctor's involvement ends, and that person is not necessarily any healthier. They just don't have that disease anymore. I can take it to the next level to at least restore their prior health, or maybe even enhance it for the rest of their lives. And I don't know why every medical practice doesn't have a functional division.
Well, hand in hand, I think you're absolutely right. If all the doctors could get together in a sound and cooperative way, that certainly will work for the conventional doctors like myself. Unfortunately, it is based mainly because the insurance companies want a diagnosis.
Yeah.
So no matter what, and in order for conventional doctors to get paid, you have to have a diagnosis. You know how many patients will say, hey, listen, I went to this doctor and they put down, they never told me, but they said on the insurance form I have hypertension, but I don't have hypertension. I'm just perfectly healthy. But being perfectly healthy is not a diagnosis.
Right.
No,
so
that's true.
You have to have that. You have to have that diagnosis, and this is what they strive for in order to get paid. So it makes the whole system, how it's set up, doesn't allow that cooperation between functional and conventional doctors, which is unfortunate because I think who suffers the most, it's the patient.
Absolutely.
And the patient's families along with them suffer as well. And without, the doctors trying to find the diagnosis with this gentleman who had visual problems, they may have gone to the full limit of trying to figure it out in terms of all the testing and the MRIs or whatever they did on them. But, just trying to treat something makes more practical sense to me, especially when you've come to the end of the line and you really don't know what's going on. And that's where functional definitely could make a bigger difference than the conventional systems that are out there right now.
Absolutely. And the golden handcuff situation of most conventional medical doctors, the reason that I am the kind of doctor that I am is not because I failed out of med school. I could have gotten a full boat scholarship. The reason is that I learned very early on the restrictions that are placed on that. Just as Dr. Dorio said, you have to have a code. You have to have a 5 to 7, I think it's 7 or 9 digit code in order to be able to get paid. And so there's that. You have to categorize somebody, whether they are really in that category or not, just to get paid. And secondly, once you have that code, there's only a handful of things that you're allowed to do. You're only allowed to do what the consensus has determined is the appropriate methodology, whether it is appropriate for that individual or not. So there's so many restrictions.
They call it evidence. They try to call it evidence-based and make it seem as if, because trial and error has allowed certain things to be used as treatment, that's the only thing that can be used. And, if you were to look at what was evidence-based 20 years ago, comparing it evidence-based to 2020, you would go, hey, these are totally different. If you look at what we started out in January of 2020 as evidence-based treatment for COVID-19, you will find 6 months later that has changed drastically. And some of the reasons why people are surviving right now is we went unconventional, especially in ICUs with ventilators, in treating our patients. Many of my colleagues back east had to find out the hard way that some of the things that we learned in medical school and in training just were not going to be working. So we have to adapt. We have to make changes. We have to look at what is evidence-based right now and say, okay, yeah, it's there, but please, it's not the last straw. It's not the last potential thing that we can do, and keep an open mind to that, which, conventional doctors, as you know, Dr. Palaki, they don't do. They don't allow wisdom until something else comes out and says, oh, no, now do it this way. And I think that's kind of inappropriate in terms of giving the best care we can to our patients.
Absolutely. And the issue is that a conventional doctor literally risks everything for stepping out of that consensus. There is so much off-label treatment going on right now with so many different medications, and the powers that be look the other way until something goes horribly wrong, and then they're looking for a scapegoat. It is wrong to put the front line of medicine in such a precarious situation where a medical doctor wants to do the right thing for their patient, but if anything goes wrong, they're hung out to dry.
Yeah.
That's not right. That's just not right.
Well, that's where we come in. We don't have the same issues, mostly because most of functional medicine is not covered by insurance. That's the rub.
Yes.
So people are going to have to pay for their care, but when they are in a situation where they can pay for their care, all those rules are set to the side, and we have an incredible amount, an encyclopedia of options that are not available in conventional medicine in order to help restore that person's health. And none of it is based on pinning down a specific 9-digit code in order to get reimbursed by their insurance. It's all about, okay, what system's being affected, or what organ is being affected, or what tissue is being affected, and what is absolutely necessary in order to restore health there. And like Dr. Dorio mentioned in the first segment, The plant analysis is perfect. You have to have a certain kind of sunlight. You have to have a certain kind of water. You have to have a certain kind of food. You have to have a clean environment. And when you start applying that approach towards getting someone healthy instead of, okay, what kind of pesticides do we have to spray on this plant? What kind of herbicides do we have to spray around the soil so that weeds don't come? What kind of artificial light do we need? What kind of artificial environment do we need to create in order to increase the yield of this particular? What kind of genetic modifications do we have to do on this organism in order to get a higher yield to market? See, that's the difference between the conventional approach to agriculture and a more functional approach towards growing healthy food.
But you know, the stuff that they use is so full of horrible chemicals. You know, when they spray everything to keep bugs away or caterpillars or something like that, that stuff kills, but it also puts a horrible film of some kind that's very unhealthy on the plant.
Well, these
the vegetable.
These things, you know, from a larger perspective, they need to be able to bring a certain amount of product to market, to the consumer. So at some level, it makes sense. The problem is, if that is the only goal, yes, there is going to be some downside to it, and that is that what shows up in the market that you buy in plate is going to have some contamination in it, and it's a matter of, well, how much contamination is really acceptable? Because that is the argument we start getting into. Like, how much glyphosate is acceptable in, you know, your wine or your produce or your cereal or in your bloodstream or in the placenta or in a baby's developing brain? How much is acceptable? And for me, the answer is none.
None.
None is acceptable. There's no good answer for that.
Well, you know, it's interesting because they well, it's well known, wash your vegetables before you eat them. But some of that horrible stuff penetrates the vegetable. So washing it doesn't get rid of it all.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where the danger comes in. You know, it's amazing. But in the meantime, we need to take a break, don't we? I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220, KHTS.
And now, a cooking tip from Keith Mowry from Bob's Country Meats. Ribs were made for the barbecue, but here's a great cooking tip.
The best way I like to cook the ribs is in the oven, cover them about an hour, 350, then put them on the barbecue for about 15 to 20 minutes, turn them a few times just to get them nice and brown.
Ribs, chicken, tri-tip, pork chops, turkey, steaks, even exotic game like buffalo and ostrich. For the tastiest ribs in town, visit Bob's Country Meats on Soledad in Canyon Country.
At Advanced Audiology, we know how important hearing is to you, your loved ones, your work success, your safety, and your ability to stay in the game. Most people won't admit hearing loss to themselves or others. We make it easy for you. Today's digital hearing aids come in a variety of styles, including invisible. All feature-rich, providing unparalleled hearing quality, wearing comfort, and automation that simplifies your life. Don't be fooled by our imitators. There's only one Advanced Audiology with the purple sign next to AAA on Valencia Boulevard.
Finding the right lawyer can be a challenge, but in Santa Clarita, there's no need to search when there's Hacker Law Group, Santa Clarita's premier litigation firm. Jeffrey Hacker has represented celebrities, financial institutions, accident victims, real estate developers, realtors, contractors, businesses, nonprofit organizations, and other individuals and companies with their legal challenges. Mr. Hacker is one of Santa Clarita's leaders, consistently listed as one of our most influential. When everything is on the line and you need legal counseling, visit hackerlawgroup.com.
Hey, this is Ellen Kay, and I'm so excited. Exer More Than Urgent Care is now open in Canyon Country, right near Highway 14 and Soledad Canyon Road. Exer is the ER alternative that's built and staffed by ER doctors. And with on-site lab, x-ray, and pharmacy, Exer has more medical services than most urgent care. Open 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Walk in and be seen in minutes. Visit exerurgentcare.com for more information. That's exerurgentcare.com.
Hi, I'm Eric Goldhurst, Head of Operations for Burger King North America. Throughout this time, we've taken steps to take care of our guests.
And since we know many of your jobs have been affected by this crisis,
we want to help make sure you're taken care of too.
If you are looking for work, we are hiring.
And there's a spot on our team for you.
We know that we'll get through this together, as long as we keep taking care of each other.
For more information, call 253-3283. That's 253-3283.
Loss of hearing can affect the quality of life. Santa Clarita Hearing Center can help. They specialize in both preventative hearing loss and corrective measures, including diagnostic tests, new technology hearing aids, cochlear implants, hearing protection, and tinnitus treatment. They can adjust your current hearing aids or fit you for new ones. Santa Clarita Hearing Center also offers sleep molds, swim molds, and musician monitors. Book an appointment today. Log on to SantaClaritaHearingCenter.com. Located on McBean Parkway next to the hospital. That's SantaClaritaHearingCenter.com.
It's like no other station I've ever listened to. It's great.
Your hometown station.
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host Dr. Jean Dorio on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220, KHTS. And we're having a great conversation with Dr. Thomas Palaki, a local chiropractor. And we really haven't gotten into the chiropractic portion.
No, we never do. Not on this show.
But you're not the kind of chiropractor that puts you on a table or makes you stand up and twist you and hear your bones crack.
No.
Thank goodness, because I've been to those kind, and that's very painful, and it doesn't do that much good.
Well, I'm not a fan.
I'm sorry, it doesn't.
That's fine. That's my personal opinion as well. And after teaching at 2 universities, it's not just a personal opinion anymore. I believe that to be true. I'm not a fan of general manipulation, regardless of who administers it. It doesn't matter whether it's your barber or your gym coach or someone who's been doing the same thing on every patient, every time, with every condition for the past 50 years. I don't believe, because of my understanding of the way that the spine works and the way that the joints are located in the spine and the way they behave, that general manipulation is a good approach towards helping people. So I thank God that I had that kind of an experience personally, because I was, as I said in the earlier segment, I was going to go to med school. I had it all planned out. And woke up one morning, couldn't turn my head. It wasn't the first time that had happened, but prior to that, every time that I dealt with some issue, because I'd already had some pretty serious injuries by that time at 16, it was in conventional medicine. It was muscle relaxers and painkillers and anti-inflammatories and a neck brace and then therapy and then work it all out for several months. And the whole time I'm suffering with at least 5 different diagnosed conditions on 5 different prescription medications essentially year round, and that was the first 16 years of my life. Wow. So this one time, just because of circumstances, I don't want to get too much into it, this one time we decided to try something else. I wake up one morning, I can't turn my head, go in, and the guy's nice enough. This is back in the late 70s, so insurance paid for everything. You just showed up and kept your appointments, and you didn't have to worry about anything. And if the guy was nice enough, you didn't have any reason to think differently. But I thank God that he wasn't that twisty, cracky kind of chiropractor, because even with all that, in the state that I was in, if someone would have grabbed my head and twisted it in both directions until I heard several cracks in my neck, I would have immediately thought he was trying to kill me, and that would have been the last chiropractic experience I would have ever had in my life. But instead, it was a completely different process. It's close to what I'm doing now, but I'd like to think that we've refined it a little bit in the past 40 years, and now it's something that is not really recognizable to most people who have experienced conventional chiropractic. They come in and they say, well, aren't you going to adjust me? And I was like, we just did. And I show them the measurable change, and I ask them, how are they feeling? And they were like, well, it feels a little better, or some degree of better, or I don't really feel that much. I was like, okay, let's sleep on it. Let's see how it goes. And they come back, and they were like, I don't understand. I've been dealing with this problem for decades. And the only thing that ever gave me any kind of temporary relief was that, twisting and cracking stuff. But I'd have to keep going back and back and back. Am I going to have to do that here? And I was like, no, that's not my goal. My goal is to get this resolved as quickly as possible, give you some homework, and occasionally check up and make sure that everything's going right. But I'm never going to crank your neck around until your spine cracks.
No, I've had that happen to me, and that's a horrible feeling. It really is.
Well, most people feel the same way. There are a lot of chiropractic fans out there, and I don't want to insult any of my colleagues or any of their fans. That's not my intention. It's just that the reality is that the chiropractic profession has never enjoyed even a 20% piece of the pie in the most common thing that people go to chiropractors for, and that's back pain. So 80% of the people, even with our most valuable service to the public, would never even consider coming. And I believe that is one of the main reasons that people just aren't into having someone crank them around until all kinds of noises come out of them.
Well, it's interesting because I took a pretty big fall a week or so ago. It's been 2 weeks ago now. And I hurt myself more than I realized because you picked up on it when I came to see you. And what you have been doing has definitely helped.
Yeah, without any traditional form of manipulation whatsoever. More of a vibration, more of a massage type therapy than anything else.
Absolutely. And it's time for us to end, isn't it? Unfortunately, this has been a terrific conversation,
Sure
Dr.
has.
Pilecki. Don't you think so, Gene?
Oh, absolutely. So if there are our senior listeners and non-senior listeners who would like to contact you, what is your phone number?
753-9340.
661?
Yeah. 661-753-9340.
Terrific. Thanks very much, Dr. Pilecki.
Thank you.
And we'll see you again soon.
Great conversation.
Yes,
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yes.
We are sponsored by Comfort Keepers In-Home Care and Advanced Audiology and Santa Clarita Hearing Center. Listen to us next week on the Senior Hour. Now go and enhance your quality of life.
Plus extra podcasts too. That's hometownstation.com. Hometownstation.com.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
Hi, I'm Miles McNamara, Certified Senior Advisor and owner of Comfort Keepers and Home Care. Our caregivers help you